This is the Baltimore you see in city brochures, the postcard pretty Inner Harbor. Tourists stroll along the promenade, European-style cafes anchor the waterfront. But not far away is another Baltimore, poor, mostly black, and like other big cities, flowing with illegal drugs. Behind me is Lafayette Housing Project. It's about a mile from Inner Harbor and just 4 blocks from police headquarters. Yet illegal drugs are dispensed here and other parts of the city about as easily as draft beer is sold at the neighborhood tavern. And since it is that easy, some, like Baltimore's mayor, Kurt Schmoke, advocate legalizing drugs, taking the money and criminal element out of the business. Legalization advocates say we are losing the war on drugs. And after a day on the streets of Baltimore, they might have a point.
Like up to the right, up by the building. There's an exchange right there.
And John McAtee ought to know a drug sale when he sees one. He's patrolled these streets for 17 years as an undercover narcotics cop. He asked us not to videotape him head on for fear of blowing his cover. Those routine drug sales are probably the toughest bust.
Okay, everybody's just turning and walking. Running is like an admission, I want you to chase me. They turn around and walk, they go 5 different directions. You know, you don't know who to follow.
Last year, McAtee and his colleagues made more than 18,000 drug arrests, about 12,000 for heroin and cocaine.
Well, cocaine is skyrocketed, cocaine use. When I first started with marijuana, heroin addiction.
The bottom line in the drug war is that there are just too few cops, too many drug dealers, and some say too many smart lawyers to get those dealers off. Lawyers like Billy Murphy, probably the best-known criminal defense attorney in Baltimore. Murphy's defended the best-known drug kingpins. Like Mayor Schmoke, he advocates legalization, but says race and politics prevent it.
Do you know how hard it is for a congressman who has to run for office every 2 years not to vote for some new revolutionary sweeping change in the drug laws that make the sentences harsher? It's a very easy political sell.
Murphy says tougher jail sentences are just not the answer.
A kid gets a 5-year opportunity to drive Mercedes-Benzes, live in huge mansions, travel all over the world. He's a little ghetto kid. He'll never have this opportunity any other way, and he really doesn't care that 5 years from now he'll go to jail.
But philosophical arguments don't mean much to those working the streets. Illegal drugs have created a huge criminal class here and in other cities. Even among average citizens, tension and paranoia reign.
Hey, look, chill out with the camera.
Bob Cardin, Financial News Network, Baltimore.
Before the music stopped, the shooting started at a disco in Westchester County last night. And when the guns fell silent, 7 people were wounded at a club in New Rochelle. Channel 2's John Slattery has the story of an uptown crowd bringing big city problems to the suburbs.
It was not your typical suburban violence. Early this morning in New Rochelle, police say 3 gunmen at a disco sprayed a crowd with bullets.
It's a disaster, something I've always feared.
Police say it began inside the Palace Disco on Main Street at about 2:20 this morning with a dispute between rappers and members of the crowd.
A few people produced guns, some handguns and automatic weapon. Crowd rushed outside. The people with the weapons ran outside into the street. The crowd was sprayed with the automatic weapon, and several people were injured.
Police say the gunman then went back inside and exchanged gunfire with security guards. By that time, the police arrived. They spotted one man with a 9mm machine pistol.
They confronted the perpetrator with the automatic weapon. He was cornered. There were shots exchanged. He was wounded, went down, and the weapons were recovered.
In all, 5 people inside the disco were wounded, as was a man driving away in a car, and the suspect with the machine pistol, identified as 25-year-old Harry Andrews of the Bronx. Police recovered that blood-soaked machine pistol and a .38 revolver, but they say 2 gunmen got away with a conventional 9mm and another handgun. Napoleon Holmes, the club's owner for 17 years, believes the weapons may have been smuggled in with the band's equipment. He says he employs people to search patrons going in.
These are guys who are experienced, ex-cops and correction officers.
Trying to keep weapons out?
We keep weapons out. We did.
But not last night.
Not last night.
New Rochelle, known for its late-night clubs, blames the violence on young people from New York City.
This particular club is a very urban club, and it attracts an urban crowd. and unfortunately that crowd brought some very urban problems with it.
Yet at the same time, the city manager, who says New Rochelle has the lowest crime rate of any city in Westchester County, says such explosions of gunfire are happening in big cities and small communities all over the country. In New Rochelle, John Slattery, Channel 2 News.
There's new protection today for crime victims who try to defend themselves with mace in New Jersey. Governor Florio signed a law today that says you do not have to pay damages if sued by someone you sprayed with mace if it's done in self-defense. Up till now, New Jersey residents were only immune from criminal prosecution, but that's not the case in New York State, where it is illegal still to use mace.
Now, Eyewitness News.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tim Fleischer. Housing, police, and drug enforcement agents have a message to send to New Yorkers. If you're involved with drugs, beware. Agents moved into housing units in a series of early morning raids, rounding up suspects. Bertha Coombs is live in Lower Manhattan now with more on this developing story.
Tim, we are at the Jacob Riis housing project. This is just one of the locations where agents from the Drug Enforcement Agency and the New York City Housing Police moved in to make arrests this morning. That sweep began at about 4 a.m. and we are told some search warrants are still being executed. It is a major drug sweep and authorities believe that they have broken a major heroin distribution ring that spanned across 3 state lines. More than 40 suspects have been arrested so far, many of them brought in for processing at the Drug Enforcement Agency's Chelsea offices this morning. Eyewitness News has learned the raids mark the culmination of a joint investigation by the Housing Police and the DEA that spanned 9 months into a major heroin distribution ring. Early this morning, 300 law enforcement officers from both agencies fanned out over 17 New York City public housing developments, including the Jacob Riis and Wald housing projects on the Lower East Side, as well as 27 other locations in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. At this hour, police are still processing the arrests and the other evidence that they've gathered. They have scheduled a joint news conference by the Housing Police and the DEA for 2 o'clock this afternoon, when we will get more details, and we will have more on this developing story beginning today at 5 on Eyewitness News. For now, we are live in Lower Manhattan. I'm Bertha Coombs, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
A party in Brooklyn turned out to be a real bust for more than a dozen young people. Police went in posing as guests, came out with a load of drugs, weapons, and cash. Jeff Weiser has that story.
Here's a look at what police seized early this morning during a raid at a Brooklyn party. The evidence included 20 tabs of a drug, possibly LSD or the new drug called ecstasy, in the manila envelopes. More than $1,500 in cash, walkie-talkies, a pistol, brass knuckles, and beepers. Police first heard about the party on Thursday when they received an anonymous letter tipping them off. Attached to the letter was a flyer inviting students from Lincoln High School to attend the drug party. But undercover police officers went to the party as well. This is a copy of one of the invitations. Police say it clearly led them to the party. According to police, it was organized by some unidentified entrepreneurs.
Undercover detectives contacted those beeper numbers and had conversation with the people at who were running the party, and who indicated to our undercover detectives that the narcotics activity was going to take place.
Police made 18 arrests, 14 males and 4 females, ranging in age from 17 to 25. The charges ranged from felony drug sales to endangering the welfare of a child. 8 of the partygoers were under 16.
Every 5 minutes the cops come, you know what's going on, they take a picture. Every 2 months, what is going to, if someone walk in here, what are you going to see? We're not going to.
The managers of the Turkestan American Association reception hall on West 13th Street in Bensonhurst were not very happy when we showed up to take some pictures. They were preparing for a wedding reception tonight, which they said had absolutely nothing to do with the Friday night, Saturday morning party.
What makes this noteworthy is that a concerned parent had enough confidence in the captain and the officers in the 60th precinct to bring it to their attention.
There were 106 people at the party. Police are not certain if any were students from Lincoln High School. From Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, this is Jeff Weiser, Fox News.